technology innovations like AI. Having said that, I talked about homes. I probably would just spend a minute on it because there are so many terms out over there. You hear Watson, then there are things from Google, from Facebook, from Amazon, the Amelias that we talk about later. There are a number of these terms, so I just thought probably a minute in terms of introduction to homes, so it sets a perspective. Simply said, it's Wipro's AI platform and a culmination of all of our efforts over the past several years in the AI space. Essentially, helping work with a client to solve business problems. Everything that's out in homes today has been built on two philosophies. One, it has to be built by solving a problem, and second, it has to be built in a manner that can help solve a lot more problems in the future. So having said that, it's a set of services as a part of the platform that's built by solving a number of business problems. And these services, if you were to think about it, you can probably look at it in 5 categories. Services that can help bring natural interactions live with the system. And when we are talking about natural interactions, we are talking about all the interactions that we see in real life. Interactions could be as simple as we humans looking at documents, reading through the documents, making sense of the documents, trying to interpret, trying to correlate, etc. Or if you start thinking about interactions, it can get towards other channels. You talk about voice, you talk about chatbots, you talk about collaborative environments where visual computing plays a big role. Or you talk about even some of these new sophisticated applications that have come into play, the AR, VR, and the holographic applications. So essentially, you can think about a set of services where natural interaction data can be ingested out of this natural interaction. This data can be represented in the context in which it is going to be used. We're talking about the entire knowledge representation side of services and the insights that can be produced using algorithmic intelligence layer. And then that's the basis to do the things that we humans do. Based on the data that's ingested, that's digested, with some insights, the idea is how do you bring in services that reason, that infer, and interpret the way we humans do. They learn over a period of time. We are different because we always have learned through our experience. And the whole philosophy is how do you start mimicking not just human activities, but even human behaviors onto the machine. And that's all about Wipro Homes. It can, the type of applications that we talk about, they are essentially talking about applications that impact experience in the form of assistants or agents, a lot of digitalization of the processes that support these experiences, some of the anticipatory systems that we are building, and some of the autonomous things, which I say it's more in the research mode. We'll just have the videos speak for it.
Our brain is busier than ever before. Every millisecond, millions of stimuli bombard us with fact, fiction, decisions, problems, even biases and misinformation. Beyond comprehensible limits, we just cannot keep pace in processing swiftly and accurately, all leading to costly business errors that can even lead to business decline. But there's a solution that loves crunching information at lightning speed, giving you the hyper-efficiency you need to win in a hyper-economy. Say hello to Wipro Homes. Designed for the automation era, Homes is right at home, where speed and efficiency of operations are 24/7 feature, which makes Homes perfect for today and tomorrow. Artificial intelligence capabilities allow it to gather data from multiple sources, analyze patterns, validate processes, diagnose and heal issues, and automate as necessary. Wipro Homes can reside on a cloud server or even on your business premises, depending on the criticality of your information. Automating your business with Wipro Homes drastically reduces the time your business takes for routine functionality by minimizing human interventions. The result, you have future-ready processes which are up to 70% more efficient and up to 40% more cost-effective. And with each interaction, it learns more, updating its response patterns and sharpening its cognitive capabilities, making Wipro Homes the right AI partner to give your business the winning edge. Welcome to a new era of work. Welcome to the world of Wipro Homes.
And that's pretty much what I will talk about myself or Wipro Homes. The entire rest of the time I just thought would be best utilized by talking examples. examples that we see around us, examples that we have been part of those journeys as well. That will just to give a bit of, thought-provoking ideas to set into your minds. So again, as I said, it will be all examples moving forward. Just before jumping in, I would probably just try to summarize a number of conversations that I have been having with multiple people across the globe, particularly with respect to all of these terms that I used earlier. And if I were to look at some of the key challenges that's driving this disruption today, I would even call it disruption as opposed to just transformation, because it's truly disruptive. There are probably some 3 or 4 ideas that are really driving it. First and foremost, customer engagement. A completely different expectation in today's world in the way customers expect us to engage them. We have our generation from being digital naive turned digital natives. We have the digitally native born millennials. And all of these digital behaviors are expecting that the engagement has to be significantly different, significantly superior than what had been in the past. Unlike we reaching out to clients with our products, it's essentially we aligning with the digital behaviors that are emerging. And that's the whole driver in terms of looking at disruptive ways of servicing our clients in future. Sitting out in New York, no one can forget the burden of increasing regulations. The tens of thousands of pages of regulations, and in fact just one of the regulations, needless to mention, more than a couple of thousand, we all still try to figure out as to how do we actually meet this regulatory burden. There has been a traditional approach where you put in or throw in resources at trying to solve the problem, not something that is sustainable. If the regulations go on increasing in the same pace, you just can't go on expanding teams, ramping up teams, ramping down teams, putting in location strategies, putting in training strategies, labor arbitrage strategies, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, we have to think about something completely disruptive, something that can be sustainable in the piling regulations that are out there. I would say the third biggest impact or the challenge that is faced by all of us is the new competition. Gone are the days where we are talking about our traditional competitors, our conventional competitors. We are talking about new competition. Nothing new to us, where we have seen a technology firm playing out in the name of Amazon disrupting the retail industry. Over here in New York, we have seen a startup firm, PayPal, disrupting the payments industry. Who would have imagined that? You talk about Uber completely disrupting the transport industry. You talk about Airbnb disrupting the hotel industry, hospitality business. And you think about the common thread that's out over there. That's unconventional competition. One of the biggest underlying denominators is these firms are powered by technology platforms. And they have started disrupting the existing world order. And that's one of the biggest thinking points for the entire strategy groups across multiple organizations. Again, we have a traditional challenges that we always face. You have cost pressures out over there. You have data explosion that's going on. That's just humongous. It's like water everywhere, not a drop of water to drink. You have the threats, etc. Finally, if we were to think about all of this, and we as business heads were to think about how our operations have to be aligned to all of these challenges, I think there are 3 things that are something that have to be like running things in our minds. One, we have to have superior outcomes than what we have seen in the past. These outcomes have to be supported by highly efficient processes. You're talking about efficiencies that have to be, if measured on some of the parameters, the efficiencies have to be quantum efficiencies in the way we operate. And of course, it has to be economical, not something where you are talking about huge capital investment to begin with and the whole initiative doesn't take off. So just if we were to think about driving this transformation, automation is one of the biggest levers that's helping get this transformation happen. And I would just suggest, instead of thinking of automation in multiple silos, today world talks about automations that's driven by traditional technologies. You talk about robotic process automation that's predominantly robotic in nature. We talk about automation that's more driven out of AI kind of technologies. I would suggest think about automation as a continuum. Look at its evolution and leverage the right components of automation for the right pieces a puzzle that had to be solved. You can take this as a mental map in your mind as a guidance. You can map the type of automation that needs to be carried out against two parameters, one which is intelligence and one which is complexity. If we were to look at our last decade, the 2000s, we have spent a lot of time in terms of automation carried out by scripts, carried out by workflow automations, BPM tools, and so on and so forth. Come 2012, we have seen RPA, and when I refer to RPA, I'm talking about robotic process automation tools, automation anywheres, the Blue Prisms of the world, work fusion, etc. We are talking about robotic actions being brought onto the machines. So we're actually seeing emergence from 2012 and gain rapid pace out there. All of this, I mean, if you were to really think about what's common, it's more robotic, it's rule-driven, and if you were to really map it to process areas, you are talking about deterministic processes where this type of automation has been carried out. And now, at least for last 2 to 3 years, we have seen the frontiers being pushed. We are humans, we don't like what is there, we always look for more. And now we are talking about activities that were carved out for humans also getting onto the machines. You are bringing in AI onto the machines, which effectively is talking about bringing in cognition, bringing in the intuition, and all that the humans use to carry out their activities onto the machines. I see the world of autonomous applications not too far away. Keep a watch on it. They are coming in rapidly, and I think before it comes and hits us, I think our transformation journey should have at least reached the stage where AI is being effectively used. I'll just take a few examples, and here on it is just examples that I talk about. And these are just as the picture depicts, it's just the tip of the iceberg. I'll probably touch upon a few type of applications which impact the experiences for our clients. You're talking about digital agents, which are the new avatar of self-service applications that we are developing. Cognitively intelligent, acting as companions. They are not guides, they are companions. Then you're talking about virtual SMEs that sit out in contact center operations. You're talking about field assistants, which are essentially sitting out in the customer care and repair operations. So these are kind of examples that a lot of people around here or your peers out in the industry are currently working on. Then there are applications that get into the mid office and the back office areas. You're talking about compliance operations, and KYC is probably the biggest name that's been out over there. If you go beyond compliance, you get into the risk organization, you get into the finance organization, and you start thinking about risk. You start thinking about fraud. You start thinking about what's your exposure and so on and so forth. You get into a lot of other business process areas. You start talking about manufacturing operations. You're talking about policy servicing. You're talking about revenue assurance, number of operations which are focused on certain business lines. And these are the kind of applications that we see today a lot of customers actually working on. These are real examples that I have pulled off that we have seen. So it will just get your mind thinking in terms of what's the art of the possible. I talked about compliance. I'll probably touch upon this area. Biggest problem that touches everyone. Sitting in New York, if we were to talk about being one of the largest financial firms, it's probably the biggest headache that you have. And needless to say, whether this country or otherwise, this problem is always solved by ramping up teams and ramping up teams. Huge manual operations for the right reason. Technologies could not support it in the past because you are talking about a lot of data collection, data analysis, data aggregation, a lot of correlation of data points, trying to look out exposures, etc. For one of the banks that we worked with, and that's just one of the several that now we are working with. Only for addressing the institutional clients, they had around 2,000 people. And we are talking about efficiencies or disrupting the way the whole world order in the KYC process area is all about. Rather than thinking about process simplification, rather than thinking about process reengineering, we're talking about process reimagination, as Nikhil mentioned earlier. Look at completely different ways of doing the same things. Look at taking the same inputs, producing much better outcomes, and some of the numbers are out over there. You talk about the efficiency numbers which are in the excess of 50%. In this case, the turnaround time. You talk about savings to be in the excess of 40%, and you talk about big numbers out over here. It's not just in terms of trying to make it run fast, but it's also in terms of FTEs. On a 2000 base, we are talking of 40%, which is around 800 people in fact out just in one bank, in one division of the bank. And then you're talking about the hard dollar savings. In this case, the estimated one is around $100 billion. This is what is the world shaping up. I think the Challenge the Future award that's mentioned out over there, it's an important point to ponder. If you were to think about future applications, this is one solution that has won an award. It's just to say that an application of AI in today's real world is here and now. It's not left to be futuristic. We are seeing a number of areas that I'm going to be talking about today, which are something that you and your peers have started working on as we speak today. It's just a matter of how do we expand first. I'll let the video talk about KYC.
In the world of financial services today, regulatory bodies have mandated comprehensive Know Your Customer programs, resulting in the strengthening of customer due diligence. While financial institutions are keen to implement these programs, they are limited by their existing technology capabilities and functionalities. The comprehensive KYC process requires extensive manual work for information identification, aggregation, extraction, and verification. The due diligence process has analysts playing the roles of makers and checkers. The process is time-consuming and error-prone. eKYC is a solution based on the Wipro HOLMES artificial intelligence platform to deliver a cost-effective and regulatory-compliant KYC process. Wipro HOLMES cognitive automation learns continuously, interacts naturally, and makes decisions through intelligent reasoning. Here's how it works. The eKYC solution creates investigation, aggregation, extraction, and verification bots with abilities to mimic and enhance human activities and make decisions, delivering a better customer experience, productivity gains, reduced process completion cycle with speed and quality. Wipro HOLMES deploys the extraction bot to extract ownership and controllership information and depict the output using a rich visualization. In this process, it highlights and learns names associated with the company and its people, including acronyms. Negative news is not immediately evident, so HOLMES launches the knowledge bot to investigate. It extracts hidden news to uncover relevant data. It also discovers additional related information from trusted sources before completing the investigative process. The solution shifts process automation to the next level by providing cognitive assistance to analysts, accelerating processes, preventing failures, and retaining expertise. Wipro HOLMES eKYC slashes time, costs, and efforts, replacing manual and error-prone processes with an automated cognitive computing system that learns and gets smarter with experience. For more information, contact info@wipro.com.
So, just moving beyond compliance organizations, you start thinking about the other few operations, right? Particularly in certain important functions. You start moving from just being compliant to certain regulations to start thinking about risks that are associated with your business. The risk office is always focused on that. You have the finance office always looking at numbers, combining it with risk and saying, what's the financial stability of my organization? What are the potential exposures of my organization? And one of the important elements that always is a point of bother is the fraud area. So I just took an example. If you were to look at the finance operations, if you were to look at risk operations, just took an example, fraud, which is one of the most important areas of focus for both the organizations. If you really think about it, what do we do? This is even more complicated than a lot of the maker activities we talked about earlier. You're talking about highly knowledgeable people having the ability to look at suspicious behaviors, to look at anomalies, whether it's the transactions, whether it's the data, whether it's the payments, etc., and having with them sophisticated statistical analysis tools with them. What they essentially do is, in today's world, they look at sampling of data, making sure that they get the right pointers, and they get to a point where they say these are the kind of frauds that are getting committed. A lot of the times is post-fact, and there is big focus in terms of saying how do we become preventive in nature. So just as an example, I just took an example from a different industry this time, more working with the supply chain industry. For this customer, we're talking about finding leakages, finding duplicate payments, finding suspicious behaviors in payments, etc., in terms of accounts payables. Typically, it's a very big activity. You're talking about anywhere between 2% to 5% that actually an organization gets impacted due to fraud. And for this particular case, we could actually see that over 2% savings was achievable. Just to give a quick more details around what this fraud area is all about and how AI is.
Say hello to Roger, Cindy, and Mark. Roger is Chief Financial Officer of a consumer goods company, and he is under constant pressure to increase the bottom line. With his busy schedule, he is unaware of the errors that are happening in his procure-to-pay function and discrepancies in billing by his media agency. Cindy is the head of operations of a motor insurance company and is worried about the rising incidence of fraudulent claims year on year. Mark is the chief risk officer at a high-tech company, and he is currently alarmed with the incidence of data leaks and credentials misuse by employees. All of them are facing instances of fraud that firms around the world deal with every single day. Association of Certified Fraud Examiners estimates that fraud costs businesses 2 to 5% of their turnover. And with world's data expected to be over 44 billion terabytes by 2020, drawing meaningful insights from it is becoming increasingly challenging. This is where Wipro HOLMES Anomaly Detection Platform comes in. It is a scalable, self-learning platform offered as a managed detection service. It aims to improve the organization's risk climate and deliver process velocity. It is flexible and can be rapidly deployed. Here's how it works. Data ingestion layer handles huge data volumes from multiple sources, uncovers clues from it, and makes connections that otherwise remain unseen. Using pattern-based prediction, the platform reduces false positives and prioritizes red flags. How does Wipro HOLMES reveal anomalies? It uses machine learning algorithms to stay one step ahead of new fraud schemes. The machines shape their own models, and through an iterative process of self-learning from feedback, the models accommodate the changing face of risk. Our recent implementations have delivered quick returns in short time frames.
So again, if you think over here,
an end-to-end risk management platform, which essentially helps companies do business better.
if you think over here, right, what is the focus? Here it's not about, the focus is not about the data that's gathered through transactions, data that's gathered through payments and so on and so forth. It's not about the analytics that's put on top of data. It's about automating of the decision making after all of this is available in the hands of very, very knowledgeable analysts. You're essentially automating that decision-making process to say, how do you capture fraud, how do you look at suspicious behaviors, and how do you act upon that? So that's what I was talking about, pushing the levers. Going beyond corporate functions like risk, finance, compliance, you can start thinking about every single business operations area. I talked about a lot of them earlier as examples. Classic case, I'll just take an example out over here for a manufacturing firm that we worked with. The focus was in terms of taking information out of documents. And in this case, we're talking about documents to be diagrams. A manufacturer that has a number of products, a number of parts getting manufactured in their plants, and all of this information sitting out in CAD/CAM diagrams. Now, how do you get that information out? Other than the fact that few humans are reading it and taking certain data points and inputting it into the system. Now it just doesn't restrict yourself, you don't need to restrict yourself just as documents which are CAD diagrams. You go to an energy major, there we are actually looking at oil well logs. And that is from a perspective which are not just the current oil well logs, but past oil well logs to take decisions in terms of saying, should we bid for certain oil well rigs or not? Similarly, you go on to some other types of industries or other types of business operations. You are talking about a lot of contracts existing. Contracts could be between counterparties. Contracts could be between just a shipment from a transport carrier or to the customers and so on and so forth. It's essentially wherever you are requiring human brains to go through all the data, correlate the data points, and then digitize the content. That's the part that we are talking about automating out over here. Probably term it as cognitive digitization out here. I'll just take this particular example and let the video talk about what it means to digitize.
Each year, which collectively contain tens of millions of product attributes. And once you have these attributes captured in documents, you will want to digitize it so that your customers can log into your website or an app and effortlessly search for the specifications they need from the millions of products you offer. Are you currently spending huge sums of money to manually digitize your product specs? How much time does it take to accomplish this for a single drawing, let alone millions of documents? How many errors do you find, which then have to be rectified in a follow-up QC process? And when you need to add an attribute to an entire family of products, how simple is it to roll out this change? We at Wipro feel your pain, which is why we began to explore how artificial intelligence could be used to solve such pressing industry challenges. The result? The creation of Docs to Data, powered by the Wipro HOLMES platform. One-of-a-kind offering that blends in natural language processing, OCR recognition, semantic search engine capability, cognitive learning, and algorithmic intelligence tools to rapidly digitize your documents like never before. So let's take a look at how HOLMES Docs to Data works. We begin by understanding the regions of interest from which the product attributes are to be captured. We then train our OCR system to recognize and interpret these characters in multiple scenarios. Grainy backgrounds, blurred characters, text with symbols, or grammatically incorrect sentences. An intelligent dictionary is created to understand unconventional terms such as chemical symbols. Now that the data is analyzed, it's time to extract it, cell by cell. All these attributes are then transmitted to a simple UI where the operator can check if all the attributes have been captured accurately. Any errors are reported back to the system, which learns from its mistakes and keeps getting better and better and better. Extensive testing shows that our HOLMES Docs to Data platform can auto-extract 60% of attributes from complicated drawings and text specs. With its rapid learning capabilities, HOLMES Docs to Data can process millions of documents 4 times faster and at 20% the cost. Wipro sees artificial intelligence as the final frontier. It is only a matter of time when AI would understand everything about your business and deliver you the right thing at the right time and right place. And when that time comes, what a world it would be.
Yeah, that's a classic case. You're not talking about just images, you're talking about a lot of information out in the images, a lot of complex deep learning nets, etc. that are involved out over there. Well, these are just some of the things that you start thinking about, particularly when you're talking about the operations behind. This predominantly, I would say, the examples that we touched upon are examples in the mid office and the back office areas where you have huge manual operations that need to be digitized. If you start thinking about experience that I spoke about earlier, particularly the most driving factor of customer engagement, you are talking about a number of operations areas that interface with the client. Classic scenario, I'll probably give this example when you're talking about experience. I'm a big online shopper now. as I said, our generation has turned digital native now. I had a shipment issue 4 weeks back with one of these leading online retailers, a big name, very respectable name as well, one of the disruptors. And when I had given a call to the call center agent, it was a phenomenal call. Even though it was an issue, it got resolved to my satisfaction. They didn't lose me as a customer. The call was picked up, some quick details were understood, and then that was put on hold for a couple of minutes. Some knowledgeable people were referred at the back, and the person came back and solved the problem. Surprisingly, I had the same problem, not with that particular product, but another product happening last week. And that call was very interesting. Same call, it started off well. I was put on hold for 2-3 times. And I could see the agents struggling to get the information from some of those knowledgeable SMEs that was supporting that agent. My experience, which was out over here in the earlier call, was over here. That's the way the benchmarks move. That's the non-uniformity of experience in the services that we deliver to our clients. And I'm sure all of us struggle with this on a day-to-day basis. And the whole philosophy was running in my mind, because this is a problem for a different client that we were trying to solve. And as we speak, I actually put into their floor, where you're talking about how do you make the SMEs supporting the contact center agents extremely predictable. Essentially, that's more a healthcare space. We essentially had those knowledge SMEs being replaced by virtual SMEs. We essentially created knowledge engines that were sitting and giving information out to the call center agents. Now you start thinking about the uniformity. Now you have predictable level of experience that's rendered back to the clients. And this experience, because of its learning feature, keeps improving. So you peg a benchmark of experience and you just see that this benchmark keeps improving. And this is what is the expectation out in the customer engagement. So in fact, that was phase 1, and in fact, we are working with the client in order to move that out to virtual agents itself. We just thought that world is still evolving and probably would take another year or so to reach there. But that's exactly the problem that I was facing on the phone call. I'm sure this giant retailer, I'm pretty sure they are doing all this behind the scenes, probably not yet got to what we have seen yet. But this is a real life example in terms of how are we making sure that the impact that we are creating through our service to our clients is phenomenally better than what we have seen in the past. I spoke about another example earlier, that was more in the customer care and repair operations. This applies to many companies. You talk about a manufacturing world, you talk about consumer goods world. You buy things, you look at repair, at services, post-buying. It could be warranty, non-warranty, whatever it could be, but you do face this. In fact, I always relate to my own experiences. I tell my teams that you have to relate to your experiences to get the solution right. So a year back, I had this experience regarding the treadmill I have at my home. The treadmill broke. It's a huge piece of equipment out over there. I cannot take it back for return. I have to get it fixed. I had given a call to the call center. For a few minutes, been given certain directions to try and do this, try and do that. I couldn't do it. Not my cup of tea. And they finally took that as one of the servicing tickets, and they had a field engineer dispatch at my home. I had the first visit of the field engineer who was supposed to come and do assessments and some basic XYZ activities based on certain instructions that were given to that particular field agent. What happened next? He said, I cannot solve the problem. And then after a week or week and a half or so, we had another field trip that was lined up from that manufacturer. Finally, that person came in. He had a lot of knowledge, very experienced, number of things that he referred to, but finally solved the problem. My treadmill is running, and thank God it's running even today. But a guy who was very knowledgeable, with whom I could actually talk about what we were doing at that point in time. At that point in time, we were developing this. Today it is being used. I was just talking about him as to how the world is changing, how his job would look like a couple of years from a year back. I was essentially talking about how we are developing an application leveraging the most sophisticated HMI, AI-based algorithms, putting it onto a IoT device or an edge device, and in this case it was a mobile device which had a AR/VR application. What did it do? It's essentially, it does is, you point the mobile application at the particular product, it's able to understand that this is the product and the model number. It takes it further. This is visual, image recognition, if you were to call it. It takes it further in terms of guiding the technician to follow the steps, which are sitting out in SOP documents, if you were to think about it, which was something initially read out by the call center agent in my very first call. And it's not just that, it's superimposing all the instructions in the AR/VR form and giving those instructions to the technician in order to make sure that he follows the step to solve the problem. Now, this is the life of a technician a couple of years from now, is what I was telling you. He could really relate to it. In fact, he was very thrilled. For the customer that we were talking about, we were looking at a leading product having 300 field technicians and a roadmap to bring the 300 down to 100. That was the way we started looking at it. But you start thinking about a lot of these AR/VR applications, it's not just remaining in our fancy movies or our entertainment world. It is actually getting down to our business operations. Some of the operations that are getting completely transformed. Some of these operations that are getting digitalized. And these are the sort of things that are happening out over here. So it's a big spectrum of things. We talk about AI, and then there are a number of things that fall under AI. You talk about how are the applications coming out at the touch points, impacting experiences, how are the engines behind or processes behind getting digitalized, how are these systems being able to predict, how are the systems, they'll start behaving in an autonomous manner. These are a lot of things that are out over there. If I were to touch back again, to the earlier mental map that I was referring to, the automation continuum, I think it's, you got to look at it from a different perspective. It's not just about leveraging sophisticated AI-based techniques for every part of the problem. You can start thinking backwards and start saying, okay, I have a strategy in order to carry out automation, in order to reach my transformation goals. And then I start superimposing the parts of the activities in the mental map and say, okay, there are things that will have to be done by the AI techniques. There are things which are robotic in nature and could be done by the robotic tools. And there are things where my additional investments can be brought to play. So it's a continuum that we have to put into play. An example out here for a leading clothing manufacturer, leading brand in sports and jeans, if you were to call it. The whole focus was, how do you automate the robotic actions happening when an order is placed to the time when the order gets serviced. Number of touch points, number of Excel sheets, data points that got rotated from one step of the process to another step of the process, purely robotic in nature. And the whole philosophy was, rather than having a lot of dependence upon people, rather than having a lot of dependence upon the shifts and so on and so forth, we start moving it towards robots or bots. And in this case, we actually used RPA tools and technologies that I was referring about. This is not a project that went on for a few quarters. We're talking about a project within a matter of weeks was up and running to convert all of these robotic actions onto the machine. And as I said, these are deterministic processes. These are rule-based processes, whether it is scraping from a screen, putting in the system, looking at data, putting in the system, and so on and so forth. These are deterministic processes, and we could see the accuracies to be 100%. The only time you have to touch the system is if there is a change in the process. But you could actually see that there was a 100% accuracy that we could achieve out of it. 50% reduction in those turnaround times for these activities, purely for the fact that now I have bots. They don't get tired, they don't go out for coffee breaks, they don't come in shifts, they are just bots running. They don't wait for the next day to open, they just process in real time. As the order comes, the processing keeps going. And that's the whole philosophy in terms of leverage of multiple technologies. Here, if you were to think about it, the whole world of robotic automation, we were using very specific RPA tools to achieve our purpose in a matter of weeks, rather than having a big transformation program running for a few months. So I think that's probably a few examples I just wanted to lay out. These are all real life examples. Just to say that the way I see world, all of this is real now. We have to look ourselves from measurement. We cannot escape measurement, particularly when we talk about business operations. There's no way we can escape measurement. What I referred to earlier, there are 3 E's that have to be the guiding principles for measurement. How is the experience getting delivered? Is the experience superior than what we have seen in the past? Are the supporting operations far efficient? You are talking efficiencies here in quantums. You are not talking about simplicity exercises. You are not talking about re-engineering exercises. You are not talking about 5%, 10% improvement on parameters. You are talking impacts which are in excess of 50%. These have to be far, far efficient, operations. And most important, you are talking about the world where a lot of innovations are happening everywhere. The world that's driven out of open source. All of these innovations interconnected and brought to solve problems. If you have your strategy right, if you have your journey mapping right, you would essentially be able to achieve it at a very economical way. So obviously, one of the biggest measurements is going to be the economics at which you deliver these transformations. I'll probably just close in terms of saying that if you were to think about success, it's not just about technology. Technology is evolving. We are seeing technology evolve at a very fast pace. But it's not just about technology, it's about getting the strategy right. I've seen a lot of organizations having a lot of siloed efforts going on, some experiments going on. Some of these examples that I took back earlier, these were where they had a digital strategy in place. They had a strategy in place in terms of combining what was happening in the digital world, particularly with the help of design thinking or designers, the set of people, the agency people, leveraging the innovations that are happening out over there. The strategy essentially was not just looking at business, the strategy was looking at digital behaviors, the strategy was looking at technology innovations, and all put together in the form of a journey. And then the pilots and the projects that went to production that I mentioned earlier were kicked off. It's very important to understand that this is disruptive in nature. This is not incremental transformation. The example I took about earlier, 800 jobs were getting impacted in a matter of just a few quarters. This is not something that our world is used to seeing. Change management is the most important factor. Ability to put a plan around change management, ability to communicate right will become absolutely a critical element in terms of making sure this transformation initiatives become successful. And needless to say, people will be the biggest backbone. The models are completely evolving. The shortage of people is known to everyone in this space. Too many things happening, too little people who are available to actually carry out these initiatives. And the way the people are getting utilized is also changing. It's not just about executing projects or programs, it's about executing and changing delivery models. You probably heard one of the things last evening, which was around crowdsourcing. How do you actually leverage the power of the masses and accelerate your journeys? How do you tap the right talent at the right place at the right time? These are some of the new ways of working that we will have to imbibe. Things like DevOps, things like crowdsourcing, all of these things are becoming the norm of the day. Today when I am actually engineering all of these solutions with my teams, crowdsourcing is intrinsic to my delivery models. They are essentially embedded into our planning process itself. And these are some of the things that are happening out over there. Keep a watch on it. Last point I will say, this ties back to the new competition that we talked about earlier. Ecosystems are getting evolved. Ecosystems are defining the business models of future. You always had the producers and the consumers, and some form of providers out over there. You always had a taxi driver and a taxi rider for many, many decades. What has changed is a platform called Uber that has become a provider. You always had hotels and people going on vacations in hotels. What has changed is a platform called Airbnb. The business models are changing. Ecosystems are getting developed. And these ecosystems just not restrict themselves to the businesses that are being talked about. They actually pull in the power of multiple industries together and define the new models that exist. That's all I had to say. Thanks a lot. Any questions? Yep, I think we still have time. So, any questions?
Over here, question.
Sure.
Two questions. What do you see as the major obstacles for implementing RPA? The second is, do you see that there are too many solutions for RPA? I mean, the cloud was a problem because everyone had a cloud solution. Outsourcing, everybody had methodology. Blue Prism, all the other products out there, every vendor is now coming out with RPA. Is that going to make it more confusing for the marketplace?
Yeah. So I would just focus on RPA, which is RPA tools that you're mentioning about. I think from that perspective, what you are having are choices. If you've got to really think about what is out over there, those are more choices available. You look at anything that we did in the past as far as technology is concerned. We always had choices. If you look at database technologies, you had multiple databases as options. If you look at orchestration technologies, you had multiple options out over there. If you look at RPA world, if you really think about it, that's also the same. It's the question of how are you using these products. If it is strictly focusing on RPA and robotic actions, I think it's the question of evaluating these options and what's right for your organization. Rather than getting confused, I think it's the question of mapping it to that map I was earlier referring to in terms of what are those activities that we have to carry out, what are some of the strengths and weaknesses of these organizations, because some of them are fairly mature, some of them are emerging. They're trying to differentiate with some other technologies, but I think if you just remove the clutter, you'll be able to get to the right technology product out there.
Mukund, could you go back to one of your slides that talked about the ingestion of data, the character data?
I probably won't be able to move, but that's fine. We'll refer. That's fine.
So
Yeah.
in that, to start envisioning that and get it from thinking through all the way to implementation, what's a typical timeline for a project of that nature, and how many resources are committed to that?
Yeah, so that's a spectrum. If you look at what we are talking about, it's a spectrum. It's a question of at what point in time how many resources are required. In today's world, it's a very different world that we operate in. We are talking about engineering principles getting applied as opposed to software development principles that we have seen in the world of the past. So from that standpoint, the number of resources question can vary from as few as a few little people to going as big as setting up some operations team and making the whole circle go complete. So I think that depends upon the problem that we are trying to solve as well. But to your earlier point as to what is the time frame that we are talking about, I would probably touch upon two things, and I'll touch upon that. You talked about what is the RPA tools that we just talked about, right? The blue prism, the automation anywhere, and some of the robotic actions transformation that we're talking about. And then you have having some of the disruptions or reimaginations in the form of leverage of AI technologies. I would say it's a matter of weeks where you are trying to look at RPA project implementations, and you are probably talking about anywhere between 6 to 18 months as a time frame for carrying out a complete transformation of your operations world, leveraging the AI-based technologies. Now that depends upon the level of learning that's already available on certain applications, as well as the maturity of some of these products. I took 4 examples. If I were to pick up any of these examples and quickly replicate it on other customers, I'm talking less than 6 months time frame. The KYC that I talked about, it's got to a point where I can actually carry out that in a matter of 4 months, and in fact we have a 4-month time frame we are working with a client where it's getting on the operations floor to start transforming their work. But whereas if there is a new problem, as I said, it's a tip of the iceberg, there are a lot more problems that will have to be solved. If you start talking about the new problem, then you are ranging from anywhere between 6 to 18 months. Because it's not about engineering a solution, it's about training those solutions.
Do you have a standard framework that you apply to define the problem and get it to
Yes,
solution?
we have we have developed something called as the the automation strategy sort of a framework, which will essentially help you look at the area that you are going to look for automation, put it into the right buckets in terms of the kinds of automation that are required, and also throw out certain time frames in which you should be carrying out the work. So yes, there is a guidance I think that we have created as a part of our consulting work.
Is this a custom platform developed by Wipro? Is it a proprietary platform or?
Thank you. Is this a proprietary platform developed by Wipro, or I use HOLMES, but I also leverage some of the industry products, maybe Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere, or some of the process mining tools, etc., etc.
Great question, and I think I probably didn't touch upon that earlier because I decided not to speak of HOLMES. But yes, HOLMES is the AI component of HOLMES is a proprietary platform. If I were to look at really what it gets compared against, is basically Watson, the simplest example to talk about. But then we have developed what is called as a HOLMES ecosystem, and the philosophy behind that is simple. We think that there are, as I said, it's a continuum. You would probably lay out an automation roadmap that comprises of some of the actions that are to be carried out by RPA tools, and some of the actions that are to be carried out by AI tools, and some of the earlier automation tools like BPM tools, etc. So that ecosystem is essentially to bring together all of this. So in fact, for one of our institutional clients, particularly in trade reconciliation area, you heard about it. It's a combination of an RPA tool and our HOLMES AI platform working together to solve the the issue of settlements out in the trading process. So yes, it's proprietary from an AI perspective, but we've created a clear framework in terms of integrating with all other platforms that could coexist with it. Well, I've kept my coordinates out over here. I'm out over here for the whole day. Please feel free to reach out. I would definitely love to interact with you. Learn from all the things that are happening in your world, and I think it's a very simple objective. How do we have a better world tomorrow? So